And Joseph, let me start with you. The verdict came down with Monday. First of all, did you? Let's talk about the case. Weren't you
Yep.
a little concerned when they went out to the weekend because it seemed like it was going pretty long for a case that looked like a slam dunk at one point? So walk me through what you were thinking over the weekend, and then when we got the verdict Monday.
Yeah, it did. It went on for, it was kind of protracted. We had the holiday, the Veterans Day holiday. I was on the air with Vinny in Atlanta covering the case, and we were just we were all kind of sitting around the table scratching our heads thinking, why in the world is it taking so long? But then the jury did something interesting. They had requested to see the video again from the parking lot, and they specifically requested not just to see the video, but to see the wide-angle shot. And we knew, or at least I did, at that point in time, that I felt as though that this was going to be the nail in the coffin for him, because I was really thinking they were going to have a hard time proving malice murder, which is it's a pretty rigorous hoop to jump through. But when they started looking at that video, and we started looking at it again very closely, Jordan, it just kind of jumped out at you what they were looking at. I can talk about that if you want to. It was just kind of one of those aha moments. It's kind of a rare thing that you have, I think, in court from an evidentiary standpoint.
Yeah, no question. And we'll get back to you. Give me a couple of things that you felt were a slam dunk for the prosecutors that they definitely got them on, and that you saw this coming, that this verdict was a just verdict.
Well, I mean, luckily everything on the Internet's written in ink. It's not written in pencil. And he had, of course, viewed a video of a hot car and animals in danger of death. And then he had, of course, a statement that he'd written that sometimes you need to break from your kid, before this happens. And then, of course, he's sexting, and including with underage girls, the whole time his baby's dying in that heat, for over 7 hours. So those were the top three things for me as a prosecutor, that those are slam dunks. I mean, he couldn't be clairvoyant. He meant to do it. This was malice murder. He had intention. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't just a felony murder. And when I say just a felony murder, I don't demean that kind of a charge or conviction,
right.
But the malice murder was important.
And Dwane, let me go to you. They were out 3 days. What was your take on this trial? And did you ever think for a second that he might be found not guilty?
I really didn't, and I didn't think for a second. And last time we talked about this was during the trial, and the fact that
right.
the texting he was doing was with an underage girl, and it was sexual in nature, even with other people, just really was the nail in the coffin. I mean, jury trials are a lot more about perception than they are reality, and the perception of him was absolutely horrible.
That's a very true thing. Do you think if this was a woman, Dwane, that the woman might have had a better chance of getting a not guilty?
Well, I don't know if it had to do with man or woman. It had to do with what he was doing while the kid was in the car dying. Okay, if a woman had been, sexting with a underage boy while the kid was dying in the car, I think she would have been equally, it may even have been worse for her. So it wasn't about whether it was a man or a woman. It's about what he was doing while the kid was in the car dying, and it was just wasn't a good case for a jury trial, because the jury was just never going to like him.
And back to you, Joe Scott. Give me your biggest takeaways from this trial. It was a big trial. Everybody was following it from A to Z. What did you take out of this trial that you covered from A to Z?
There were a lot of moving parts to it, Jordan, and they presented so much evidence. From a forensic standpoint, they presented a lot of electronic evidence, and I kind of felt like at times it was almost, I said this a couple of times, it felt as though that it was death by technology, because, there's only so much technology that the jury can listen to. It just went on and on and on and on, and it was almost insufferable. Some of the reporters that were in the courtroom were talking about how, the jurors were kind of drifting off. They saw a few of them nodding, during the case, and rightfully so. When you start to talk about some of a lot of the technical aspects of this thing, there was a lot of salacious things that came out of the technology, but they really went to great lengths to talk about how all of this stuff works, and you're running a real dangerous course here, I think, with the jury from an evidentiary standpoint. That's just my opinion. I'm sure that counsel can offer up that.
Yeah,
me,
let's go to Ann.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I completely
What's your
agree.
biggest takeaway?
Well, I think one thing we've seen in coverage of this case in the aftermath takeaway is, will we see more prosecutions of cases like this? Because we've seen across the country cases of people doing the exact same thing. But my answer to that is they're not Harris. And what he did, was so extreme that he went back to the car with the light bulbs, that he was sexting, that he said before the fact he's probably going to do it. And he looked at how to do it and the fact that he'd be successful in killing him. So I think, all of those things. And he looks awful. I mean, he looks like somebody who's guilty. I mean, it's just perception again, as has been suggested. The whole package was very poor for the defense. And even if they put on that he loved the baby, and this is what really struck me as a takeaway, when you show videos of him with that baby and playing and teaching him to say the word banana, do you think that helps? I don't think so. I think it basically makes him look more demonic and more guilty, because the evidence overwhelmingly suggests that he caused this child's death. And to see him with that child in a way that the jury bonds with that baby, that's the final nail in the coffin.
All right, let's go to you, Dwane. What did your takeaways from this trial?
Well, when you were talking about the technical aspects of it, part of that is,
right.
prosecutors tend to over-try their cases because they get
true.
really, really, really worried that they're going to miss something. And I had a trial earlier this year, and, we got to talk to the jurors afterwards, and they said, we always ask, what bothered you about the trial? And then the juror asked the prosecutor, why did you keep going over and over and over and over this stuff that really meant nothing to the case? And they said, well, we were afraid we were going to miss something, that was important. So they tend to over-try their cases. I mean, in that case,
right.
It didn't matter because they kind of had a slam dunk anyway. But it, the jury said, well, kind of, why didn't you stop them? And I said, because I thought it was good. I thought they were putting you guys to sleep, and I didn't care. I just let them go. I could have objected as cumulative, but so what? It's turning the jury off. So.
And finally, Joe Scott, you worked on, you followed this case from the get-go. Looking back at this case, what is the number one takeaway you'll always think of when you think of this case, besides Baby Cooper, obviously?
The thing that was really chilling about this whole thing, Jordan, was that final piece of evidence that the jury asked for, and it had nothing to do with the telephones. It had everything to do with the CCTV views that they were showing from the parking lot. And if I can just kind of paint the narrative, I'll try to make it very, very quick. But when he left that car after dropping his light bulbs off, the view of the parking lot is pulled way back, and you can see him walking away from the car. He never drops his head down below the level of the roof. He just kind of opens the door, throws him in, and shuts the door very quickly, and then walks away. As he's walking away, he meets a person in the parking lot that is walking towards his car. He acknowledges him and then walks a few steps past him and then stops and scopes over his right shoulder to see if that person is going to stop and look in that car. And when they showed that slow motion, you really got a feeling at that point in time that he was there using that car as a modality to kill that child. He was there for one more moment just to make sure that that person was not going to stop and literally wind up rescuing Cooper. And it sent a chill down my spine on air when I saw this for the first time, and I knew when the jury had and that it was the final nail in the coffin.
Just a wild case, and it's finally put to rest. Okay, let's